success is stronger than my father. With Marcus Minis.
Welcome to another episode of Stronger Than My Father podcast. I am your host, Marcus Minis Sr. This podcast is designed to bring more awareness to fatherhood, and hopefully one day through this podcast, we can make fatherhood cool again. Hey, I have to thank my producer, Jim McCarthy and Jim McCarthy Voiceovers for all his technical work to make this podcast the way it is today. If you need any voiceover work, please reach out to Jim McCarthy and Jim McCarthy Voiceovers. Or if you are interested in doing your own podcast, reach out to Jim McCarthy. Hey, I have to also thank my oldest son, MJ. I forgot to do that in the last episode, for helping his dad set up everything for today's podcast. So I had to give a shout out to my oldest son, Marcus Minis Jr. Lastly, I really like to thank one of our sponsors, Onyx Golf Apparel. If you're in need of some great golf apparel, please go to Onyx Golf Apparel.com. Look out for them. They're a great clothing line for golfing, because I am not the best golfer in the world, but I like wearing Onyx. So, hey, this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October, and I wanted to take this time to kind of step away from just talking about fatherhood all the time, to talk about something that I believe is very serious that's going on here in America, and it's breast cancer awareness. So I wanted to bring on a guest who had experienced breast cancer at a young age, and this guest is very close to me. And it's no other than my only sister, Marsha McDougal. So welcome to the show, Marsha.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, first thing I want to tell my audience a little bit about who's Marsha McDougal. You have grown through social media. You've grown through YouTube that we're going to talk about today and why you started YouTube. But I want to let my audience know a little bit about who is Marsha McDougal.
Tell them.
This is going to be an interesting podcast, because this is the first time I had my sister. I'll tell you a little bit about my baby sister, okay? She's a mother of three, husband, 2 girls, 1 son, and is a fighter. My sister is my motivator. She's the one that when I have an idea, she hardly ever shoots me down, and I really appreciate her talking, her motivation, her things that she helps me do. As many of you may or may not know, my sister was diagnosed, was that 7 years ago?
I guess so.
Was it 7? 7 years ago with stage 2 triple negative breast cancer.
Yeah.
And the day that she told me that, I literally lost it. And because my sister's so close, I never wanted anything to happen to her. So we're going to learn more about her story, how she was able to triumph, and the things that she's doing now to bring more awareness to breast cancer awareness, and to help other women talk about getting tested and why this is so important today. So let's dive into the world of breast cancer. Tell my audience, how did you first of all realize that something was wrong, and what made you go ahead and go get tested?
So it all started in 2016. I was pregnant with my second child, Naomi. And the interesting thing about my story is my story kind of starts with my mom. So I was pregnant with my daughter. I was in my 3rd trimester, and my mom had actually just found out that she had breast cancer. Our mom.
Our mama.
I had just found out that she had breast cancer, but she decided not to tell me at that time because I was in my 3rd trimester. I was a high-risk pregnancy. She didn't want anything happen, complications. So as soon as I delivered, she told me, she said, "Hey, Marsha, I was diagnosed with breast cancer like a month or 2 ago. I'm about to start treatments. I don't want you to worry." So after she gave us that news, it was time for my follow-up with my oncologist, because I just delivered, they usually go back about 6 weeks after, just for them to check everything out, make sure everything is healing okay. So while I was there, I said, "Hey, doctor, my mom just actually found out that she has breast cancer." And this is my OBGYN that I'm talking to. So she is your female doctor. So she's all the things. And I said, "My mom just told me that she had breast cancer. Since I'm here, I want to go ahead and update my medical history with that information. And is there anything I need to be concerned about?
Yeah.
Do I need to get, any type of screenings or anything like that done?
Mm-hmm.
And she looked at my age. She said, well, you're 32.
Mm-hmm.
You're still young. I don't think you have anything to worry about right now. You can just proceed as normal until the time that you're supposed to get screenings, which is 40.
40, okay.
So I said, okay, good to know. So I, left the appointment at that point and didn't have anything to worry about. So about 4 weeks, about a month after that conversation, I'm breastfeeding my daughter, and I feel a lump in my breast. Because this is my second child, I'm very familiar with breast milk and, how your breasts are supposed to feel. And I knew this was not breast milk. I knew it wasn't a clogged milk duct or anything like that. I was like, this is different. So immediately went back to the doctor. At that time, I went to my primary care doctor, and I said, hey, there's, this lump in my breast. They felt it. I was like, oh, this, is pretty solid. Went through all the tests. So they did an ultrasound. They did a mammogram. It's definitely something there, some type of mass there. Now we need to do a biopsy. So then they did the biopsy. And at that point, I was actually on my way to a vacation.
Yeah, our family vacation.
We was on our way to our family vacation at Disney World. And the doctor asked me, she said, when the results come back from your biopsy, do you want us to call you while you're on vacation? Would you rather wait till it comes back? Well, I can't stand not knowing anything. So it probably would have been better to wait till I got back, but I told her no. I said, no, call me as soon as you get the results. I don't care where I'm at. And so we were at SeaWorld.
Yeah, I remember that.
We were at SeaWorld, and I was sitting next to my niece. When I saw the phone ringing, I knew it was them. So I told her, said, hey, hang tight. I'm going to be right back. Take this call. Took the call. They said, I'm so sorry, but it came back that it's cancer. And as soon as you get back from your trip, and I mean immediately, you need to come into our office and we can discuss next steps. So I tried to go back to the rest of the vacation like nothing ever happened. The only person I told was my husband, Nathan. And so you guys never knew that I got that phone call. So so that is how I found out I got breast cancer. And then from there, everything just happened. They immediately went into treatment. I immediately went into chemo. Now I did tell you guys once.
Yeah, we got back.
I got back, but that's how I initially found out I had breast cancer.
So what goes through your mind when you first get that word, you have cancer? What went through your mind immediately when you heard the word?
Bunch of emotions. You start going through all type of things in your head because cancer is probably the most scariest thing that a doctor can tell you. I had already went through high blood pressure. We got family members with diabetes, but all of those seem not scary. But when you hear the big C word, that's when you're immediately like, I'm gonna die, and so all those emotions went through my head. I had very young kids. My daughter was only at the time 3 months old. And so, I'm thinking I'm not going to be around to see my kids grow up. So I was scared. I was scared. Kind of angry. Because I was told that from the doctors, I probably had cancer while I was pregnant. And I definitely had it when I went to my doctor and asked her that first time, did I need to get tested? Of course, she didn't know. She's going based off of her medical record, so I don't blame her at all. I've gotten over it. But, at the time, I was like, man, so if she would have tested me, if she would have just went ahead and did a mammogram just because I just told her my mom was diagnosed, it would have been caught at stage 1. So I had a aggressive cancer, so it was growing very rapidly. And just in those 4 weeks, it was already at stage 2. So stage 2 is very different than stage 1. The treatments and everything is very different. So I was kind of upset, scared, all the typical emotions if you hear that you got cancer.
So let my audience who may not know between what's triple negative. Like, are there different types of breast cancer? Or from what I heard from you've done several interviews, you said this was one of the most deadliest cancers, breast cancer out there. Am I right about that?
Yeah. So there's 3 main types.
Okay.
I'm sure by now there's a couple of other smaller ones, but there's 3 main types. There's H2, and I'm sorry, I didn't actually look that up before I came. I used to know it right off the top of my head, but there's like HER2 positive, HER2 negative, triple negative, and basically those different types of cancers are based off of hormones, and it's based off of what's feeding the cancer. So what hormones in your body are feeding the cancer, and they can immediately tell based off of what type of cancer you have. Well, if there are no hormones feeding that cancer, then you are diagnosed with what's called triple negative, meaning everything came back negative, and we don't know what is feeding this cancer. And the reason why it's the most deadliest cancer is because of that. So the treatment is a little bit different. They can't really target anything with triple negative. Of course, there is treatment, but because of that reason, because they don't know exactly what to point to, triple negative is one of the more dangerous types of cancer.
Now, let me ask you this, and you may or may not know this question. What is the success rate of people surviving that? You're a survivor. What is the success rate? If you went to 3, will there have been more issues, or do you think, hey, I still had a chance to be? I mean, we know with God, all things are possible, but just on the logic standpoint, what is the success rate of? What's the death rate of that if you get that type of cancer?
Well, statistically, the success rate, the 5-year survival rate for women that's diagnosed with breast cancer, if it's caught at an earlier stage, is about 80%.
Okay.
Survival rate. So, and what I've always been told is once you hit that 5-year mark, and if it's not came back within those 5 years, then that's a really good sign that you will pretty much continue to outlive.
Let me ask you this. Well, number one, thanks for the statistics, because I was scared to ask you that.
Oh, the survival rate.
Yes, I don't want nothing to happen to you, how? So you always, when you hear people go through that. When someone say I got breast cancer, I immediately think about you. Your journey through this whole thing with breast cancer. I remember you called me and you said, Mark, I'm thinking about doing a YouTube page about my journey. And I said, heck no, don't do that. We private. We're a private family. And you took a courageous step to come up with a YouTube page. So we got to give you, definitely at the end of the show, we got to make sure everybody knows where to go find you. What made you decide I want to do a YouTube page?
Yeah, so when I got the call in Orlando that I was diagnosed with breast cancer, we're driving home, long drive. I wouldn't do that again. But we're driving home with the kids, and I'm talking to, my husband, Nate. And, we're just talking about, what we're going to do. And so I started thinking about who I could call, who could I talk to that could possibly give me any type of words of wisdom or advice. Of course, my mom is currently going through it. So that was really tough to actually have to go through treatment at the same time as my mom for the exact same cancer, exact same type of cancer too. She was stage 2 triple negative.
I thought mom was at stage 1.
No, mom was stage 2 too.
Dude, I never knew that till now.
Stage 2. Mom was stage 2.
I thought mama told me stage 1.
No, mom was stage 2 triple negative.
All right, I never knew that.
So we both were diagnosed as the same type. And so, but mom was, 35 years older than me. Yeah. So I wanted to talk to somebody that was around my age, in their 30s, who had been diagnosed. I could not think of anyone. Wow. And I'm like, I know it has to be somebody out there.
That's went through.
Yes, but I could not think of anybody. And so, because of that, I'm thinking, well, I don't want anybody else to have to feel this way of, man, I need somebody to talk to and I don't have anybody to talk to about this, because that's a very lonely feeling. Yeah. You have your spouse, you have your church, you have your family, but they don't really understand. Because they never went through it. And so because of that, I told Nate that I think I'm going to share my story with the world. I think I'm going to tell the world that I have breast cancer, and I'm going to share this entire journey with them. And the best way I knew how to do that was YouTube.
Wow.
The best way. And I wasn't on YouTube at the time.
Yeah. That's why I was like, heck no, don't do
I
that.
had never even posted a YouTube video. So the very first video on my YouTube channel is me telling the world I have breast cancer. But the reason was to provide more awareness.
Yeah.
And one thing about the Black community, and me and my husband talked about this, a lot of times we're private. We hide a lot of things. We love to talk about our highlight reel. You know, we're graduating.
Yeah.
Ooh, we just got married. We just got a house. But when it comes to serious topics, they're taboo. You're like, ooh, don't talk about that. So-and-so has this, So-and-so just got a divorce, and it's so taboo, but you don't realize that so many other people are going through the same thing.
Wow.
And you can help somebody else the more you talk about it. You don't have to, of course, tell all your business, but something like, hey, I have breast cancer and this is, this is what I'm doing to get through it. That's important to know. And so because of that, I decided to share my story.
Well, I only made it through the first two. I have never looked at anything
Are
else.
you serious?
I'm dead serious. Because I broke down. I literally, once you told me, I was fixing dinner at home, and I threw all my food away.
Oh, my gosh.
And I just went to bed. And Toya was like, what's wrong? And I just looked at her. And I said, I think Marsha just told me she got cancer, but I don't believe it, so I'm just going to go to bed. And that's the thing that I could not. I could understand mom because of her age that could possibly happen. Yeah. But not 32. That threw me off. So I think it took me time to challenge myself, and then I got selfish, Huff. I'll be honest with you. I told God, take me, don't take my sister. Wow. I told God that. I said, don't. I can't go without my sister. And I asked Daddy this question one day down the country. And I said, Daddy, you think Mama and Marsha, one of them gonna go? Daddy said both of them gonna make it. Wow. He said, don't worry about it. We was down, you know when you talk to Daddy when he working on them trucks and stuff. He looked at me, he dead serious. He didn't even hesitate. Yeah. He just said both of them gonna make it. Wow. Don't worry about it. And you know what? From that day forward, even when you had to cut your hair off and all that, I never worried about it again. I never worried about it again. I was like, all right, they both gonna be cool, because we know this is the fatherhood podcast. It's like when your father affirms that, then I felt good within myself, not to sit there and debate, worry, and cry. Like Daddy said it. Yeah. And he was comfortable with it. Yeah. But let me ask you this: how has your journey on YouTube has been since you gave the world your diagnosis and everything? Well, before we get into that, I want to say I think I remember. I don't think I asked Dad that, but I think I just remember looking at my dad, because I was like, man, how does he feel with his wife and his daughter, his only daughter, both having cancer at the same time? I can only imagine how my dad felt. And I remember we had a program at church, and I think my dad sat in between us, or he was sitting right beside us, and I was just looking at my dad, and he didn't look scared. He did not look. I know he had to be, but he would not show it. He would not show it, and I was just thinking, like, man, my dad is so strong, and I know he probably was thinking the same thing about us, but I remember my dad not showing any. He never, Marsha. He never wavered. He never wavered on his answer. He didn't hesitate. He didn't. Because I was scared. I said, God gonna get one of them. I said, God gonna get one of them. Let me prepare my mind. So I said that prayer. And I'm selfish because I have a family, a wife and 2 kids. And I'm like, all right, God, I'd rather you take my life, keep Marsha on earth. And I was selfish because I didn't want nothing to happen to you. And that was just the thing of, when you have close siblings that's close, you don't want nothing to happen to them, but we understand life happens. Yeah. So your journey on YouTube, I know you had over 33,000 subscribers. That's not a lie. You have grown How was that journey been? How many people have responded to you and talked to you and asked you questions about,
It's been amazing.
Yeah.
So I share my complete journey on YouTube. So from me being diagnosed to going through treatment. So I did chemotherapy. I had a lumpectomy surgery, and I did radiation, and I showed each of those processes the entire time and posted it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so this was, like you said, about 7 years ago.
Yeah.
7 years ago. And 7 years ago. and oh my gosh, the responses that I've gotten from people. And one thing about breast cancer, or probably sharing anything like that, is evergreen content. So people will always, getting diagnosed with cancer and coming back. I got so many comments, Mark, from people just saying, thank you so much for sharing. Number one, they said it kind of informed them of what it was going to be like, which was my purpose. That was what I wanted to do. Yeah. And so a lot of them said they wasn't as scared anymore because they saw me go through it. And it gave them more confidence to fight this disease without being worried, because you don't need to be stressed going through something like this, because stress can make probably the treatment harder, the healing process harder. So, because of that helped. And then I even had people who didn't even have cancer, but they was going through something else that was very difficult. Yeah. And they said watching my story go through something like that helped them go through their difficult journey, whatever it was. I've had people tell me that too. Wow. And I've just gotten so many comments, and some of them brought tears to my eyes, because a lot of these women are young, just like me. Yeah. That was my plan. That was my purpose, to share my journey, so somebody else that's young going through it. Because like you said, you kind of get used to, auntie, or, somebody, a grandma, somebody that's older. 50 and up, but you don't expect it in young, and it's hitting a lot. It's hitting a lot more women at a younger age. So that's something to be aware of. So, the YouTube journey has been awesome. And then, as you know, I transitioned because after I beat breast cancer, thanks to God, God was the only one that helped me beat breast cancer. So I give all praise and glory to God. But after that process, I transitioned to sharing recipes and food and stuff like that.
Yeah, what made you decide? Did they tell you something after you finished your treatment about your eating habits having to change? That's the first question. And then, do you think what's in food today is a trigger to breast cancer, or you just think it's just hereditary?
Yeah, so great question. So they did tell me. So after I, beat breast cancer and finish treatments, you still go to doctor's appointments, and you still follow up a lot. You still do a lot more screenings than a normal person. So I'm seeing my doctor and doing screenings like 3 times a year. And one of the things that they're asking me each time, my oncologist was asking me each time that I go, she would ask me, what am I doing now? She's like, I love you, but I don't want to see you in here again. Like, the purpose for you not to have to come back for treatment. Yeah. So this is what I need you to do. I need you to exercise. I need you to get enough sleep. But most importantly, I need you to eat healthier. And so I started asking her questions like, what do you mean? Like, what do I do? And I was hoping she wouldn't be drastic, because I don't like diets and programs and I don't like that kind of stuff. I'm not vegan, I'm not vegetarian, but I don't eat bad either. I'm not about to eat a bunch of fried food and stuff. So she's kind of laid it out. She was like, no, all you gotta do is this. And so she was, hey, cut back on that red. Actually, she said cut out that red meat. Eat white meat, ground turkey and fish and chicken. Drink more water, a lot more water. Eat more fruits and vegetables. If you think you're eating enough, you're not. You need to triple it, because that's the key, the fruits and vegetables. And cut out the dairy, or cut back significantly. And so it was kind of things that you probably already know, but you just don't do. And then when she said it was like, okay, if an oncologist is telling you that. And I appreciate her being honest with me, because a lot of doctors is about that money, no offense. But they ready to give you chemo again, because it's very expensive. Wow. But she's like, no, I don't want to see you again. So let's do this. And so because of that, I started cooking more. I started trying to watch what I eat. And that's how I kind of transitioned. So I transitioned my YouTube channel from, mostly about cancer awareness to now, eating healthier. And I felt like I was hoping I was going to reach somebody that way, because hopefully people are like me.
Yeah.
Some people are like me and like, hey, I don't want to do all this, veganism and all that kind of stuff. Okay, it's nothing wrong with it, y'all. It's nothing wrong with it. But there, from my community, from where it's not a lot of that. And so it's a lot of the soul food and stuff like this. And so I'm trying to be like in that middle ground. And so that's why I decided to transition. But to answer your other question, is it something in the food and or is it more hereditary? Well, there's another statistic that's very shocking, and it's 85% of the women that's diagnosed with breast cancer have no family history of it.
Wow.
85% of women diagnosed with breast cancer have no family history. Only 15% of women do.
I would have never. I thought it would be the opposite.
It's not the opposite. And it was funny because I had what's called a BRCA test done, a genetic test done when I got diagnosed, because my mom had just been diagnosed. So I had a genetic test to see if it was something in my genetics. Because they just knew it was going to come back positive. They're like, yeah, her mom has. They both got it at the same time. It came back negative.
Wow.
Genetic, nothing in my genetics.
So I mean, I'm still baffled. I've never heard of a mother and a daughter have breast cancer at the same time. And I know you guys was on the news and you've been on several interviews and speaking engagements about it. What has changed you since then? Do your mind worry about it sometime, or you kind of like forgot about it and moved on? I'm not too much worried about it. In the church world, I'm healed. I'm not worried, because you ask mama about it, she gonna go straight. I know, mama. She going straight spiritual on you. Don't you come to me with that. Right. Mama going hardcore with you. Right. But that's her belief. In God. But for you, do you ever think about it? One day you may take a shower and like, oh, I feel something, and then your mind goes a certain way, or you kind of like, you know what, I'm good.
No, so for the first 5 years, where's this little towel?
Oh, okay.
For the first 5 years, I was I was kind of worried. There's a word in the cancer community called, I believe it's Scanxiety, and it's anxiety you get right before you have to get a new scan or an imaging done. It's kind of, I think I'm pronouncing it right. And so I had that too for the first 5 years, right before it was time to get a new mammogram or a breast MRI. I would get kind of anxiety. And then because of that statistic, as far as the survival rate, the first 5 years is the scary. And my doctor told me this too. She was like, hey, we're going to have to watch you very closely for the first 5 years. This is when it's more than likely to come back in these years. And so that's why I had multiple scans. And so, I would say I wasn't like, I couldn't sleep at night type worry. I went ahead and I was living my life. But every time before I had a scan, I would kind of get nervous. Now that I'm past that 5-year mark, I'm a lot more calm.
Let me ask you this. What is the percentage of chances that it could come back?
The only thing I know is within the first 5 years. I'm not sure after that what the statistic is. Yeah.
Now, let me ask you one question is, to my audience that's listening, because this is such a serious topic, why is it so prevalent in the African American community for black women are dying? They're saying at an alarming rate from breast cancer. Just from your opinion, why do you think that's so high from other races? Yeah,
I'll just give my opinion, so that's another good statistic. So black women die 40% more likely to die of breast cancer than white women. Even though we get it at about the same rate as white women, we're 40% more likely to die of it. And my personal opinion, and I'm sure you could probably look that up, and it's probably a couple of other resources that will probably kind of say this as well, is that it's just caught at a later stage.
Okay.
And the reason why it's caught at a later stage is because of awareness. It's because of resources. And it's because of people not doing what I did, people not talking about, but people being scared to talk about it. Imagine you having somebody close to you in your family, whether it's a mom, whether it's an auntie, whether it's a grandma, who goes through something like this, like breast cancer, and don't tell you. And so when you go to your doctor visit and they ask about your family history, you're thinking, man, no, nobody in my family has had this. Nobody in my family has had this, because people have a right to not talk about it. Look at Chadwick Boseman. You know what I mean? Like, nobody even knew. You know what I mean? Cancer. He had cancer. So people have a right to be private, but there's a cost. It comes at a cost. And so, you do have to kind of let your family, know, because it's important for them to know about their history and be able to share it with their doctors in case there's any other early screenings that need to be done. Mom, I don't think would have told us if she didn't have to. I don't think she would have. Well, we would have figured something out because of the chemo and stuff. I was like, hold on, Mom, something going wrong. But I didn't even look like Daddy. I had cancer. No, but we didn't know Daddy had cancer. Right. And but she had to tell you because of you guys. Yeah, because we had to watch, and I had my own prostate exam. Yeah. It's weird, but I will tell you, I've never had to go to sleep and you wake up, you don't know where you at. You're like, my God, what just happened? Yeah. So I'm looking around and I'm ready to grab somebody because they were like, all right, you're going to go to sleep and you're going to wake up in a few minutes. And so I was asleep, and then I went to sleep instant. And then I woke up and I'm looking around, I'm grabbing stuff, and I'm like, he was like, Mr. Manish, you okay? I'm like, where the heck am I? What y'all doing? And she was like, what kind of drug is that? The anesthesia, you know what? Because I haven't gone under anesthesia in so long, I think it was just a trigger. But they told me, hey, you good for 10 years. They say you 10 years, but here's the thing. I'm still asking, do I need to go get another test? I'm paranoid. I ain't gonna lie to you. And I'm paranoid now because I'm like, I don't want to ever get that call. So I'm trying, and I know being a big guy, that's a risk. I already know it. I know I need to do better with leaving them darn potato chips alone. If stores stop doing 2 for $4, 2 for $8, I would do a whole lot better. If they just keep chips $5, I'd never buy it. Well, they have them sales. It's hard. But as we wrap up this podcast, what can you tell my audience, the women that are listening, can you give them 3 key things they need to do to bring more, to check themselves and watch this? Because if you get it at 32, it's happening in them 30s, 40s, and 50s. What can women do now to try to protect themselves from getting breast cancer? Yeah, great question. So 3 things that I could just tell you right off the top is, number 1, do your own self breast exams at home. Okay. I feel like when we were growing up, we weren't told to do breast exams. We weren't. I don't know anybody. Mama never told you to do that? No. We weren't told to do breast exams. I don't even think that was really talked about growing up. But because breast cancer is hitting a lot more women, especially Black women, at a younger age, we have to do self breast exams. If you don't know how to do one, Google it, look it up. You can do it in the shower. I recommend you do it lying down. Do it once a month. Feel your breasts. It's not weird. There's nothing wrong with it. Feel your own breasts. See if you feel any lumps. Look at your breasts. If anything does not look right, go to the doctor. Say, hey, I felt this. This does not look right. Because the problem is we're not doing that. And then if something doesn't look right, we're scared. We're like, ooh, I don't know what that is. I'm not about to, you know what I mean? And we just prolong things. And now it's stage 3. Now it's stage 4. Now it is harder to treat. Yeah. So 3 and 4 is harder, right? It is harder. Yeah, 3 and 4 means that it's not local anymore, and it's done spread to probably a lymph node or another organ in the body. So yeah, 3 and 4, because once it starts spreading to your lymph nodes, it's spreading throughout. So 3 and 4 are a lot harder to treat versus 1 and 2. You want to catch it at 1 and 2 because it's still more than likely local. Self breast exams, definitely. Number 2 is, if you are old enough to get mammograms, get those mammograms. Don't let a year go by without you getting a mammogram. a year should not go by without you getting a mammogram, just as point blank period. Number 3 would probably be something that like my oncologist was telling me, is to eat better, you guys. I'm not saying you have to be on no strict diet. I'm just saying do what you need to do. We all know at this point, once you get 30 and up, you know what you need to be eating, what you don't need to be eating. Eat more of what you do. You need to be eating. Lay off on the things that's just not good, because it's going to catch up with you.
Well,
it's going to catch up with you.
I want to personally say I'm so proud of you for being a champion. You have a great husband who took care of you.
Shout out to my husband Nate. He was there at every chemo session.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful. This happened pre-pandemic or anything like that. Because I don't know, I would have been, it would have been lonely.
You've been by yourself, with a mask on, and can't nobody do this. And
he was there every step of the way.
Well, I appreciate him protecting my sister and taking care of my sister, and I'm proud of you. As we close out, where can people find your YouTube page and social media platforms?
Yeah, so I am under just my first and middle name, so Marsha Eileen. Marsha is just spelled Marsha, and Eileen is spelled Eileen. You can find me on YouTube and all my other platforms at Marsha Eileen. My website with my recipes is marshaeileen.com.
Well, hey, guys, check out my sister. Story's amazing. Her Instagram's amazing. Follow her good recipes. I don't know who taught you how to cook those recipes, because we didn't see that growing up.
I know. We saw the soul food.
We saw the soul food. Mama cooked them salmon croquettes and pork chops. Then she would go to Captain D's. She get that 10-pack.
Yeah. Captain D's on Friday.
2 pieces of fish and a hush puppy, some fried, and that slaw. But
Captain D's messed my stomach up now. I can't even mess with it.
I can't mess with it neither. But you're a champion as we continue this whole month of bringing awareness to breast cancer. I look forward to meeting other guests, getting their stories. But your story is amazing. You fought through it. God has blessed you with 3 amazing kids, and also amazing career in the food blog industry. So I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much for your fight, and keep fighting. Keep bringing awareness and get these women straight. Because I know it's something serious. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope this podcast helps somebody. Hey, if you enjoyed this podcast, please click the subscribe button. Thank you also for listening and supporting Stronger Than My Father podcast. And we bring more awareness to fatherhood, and one day we want to make fatherhood cool again. God bless you. Stay safe. We'll see you on another episode.